Doing and Undergoing and Its Relation to Hot and Cold Media by Ernest Becker. Doing means the human being fundamentally acts. Undergoing means the human being is a passive recipient of mediated messages or some kind of stimuli in the environment and doesn't really have to do anything. Becker continues, he says, using the simple scheme of doing, undergoing, and funded experience, right? Dewey was able to contend that organisms vary in richness depending on the particular history of each. This variation is not simply a matter of more or less experience, it is somehow a matter of more or less proper balance between doing and undergoing, right? I mean, you could be doing all the time and work, work, work and never get a chance to relax and enjoy it. You could be undergoing all the time and then you're essentially a couch potato and you never do anything. Becker continues, the organism that continually finds gratification without delay, frustration, or setback moves ahead without sufficient registering of experience, right? Not enough challenge, not enough to overcome in terms of the obstacles of the environment. They become kind of shrimpy selves. The ego doesn't fundamentally develop because I mean that is what it means to create a kind of identity for yourself, is to go out into the world and challenge yourself and see where your limits are. So I'm going to repeat that and then I'll move through the whole quote. The organism that continually finds gratification without delay, frustration, or setback moves ahead without sufficient registering of experience. It doesn't relate its experience to an assessment of its own powers, right? And that's the tragedy because the self doesn't really recognize what it's capable of because it resists any challenges to the ego. Becker continues, he says, this is equivalent to saying that the ego grows by meeting and overcoming obstacles. It tests its powers and learns to overcome obstacles by contriving or creating solutions to painful but not overwhelming setbacks, right? You get knocked down and it hurts and you cry, but then you get back up. Right? I mean, think of how you learned how to ride a bike. You probably fell a bunch and it was scary, but you didn't quit, you didn't give up, and because of that, you can have a bunch of fun. But what if, for one reason or another, maybe you had like an overprotective mom, or who knows why, you just, the kid quits, never learns how to ride a bike, and never gets to enjoy, riding a bike on the lakeshore or something fun like that. So I'll start over. This is equivalent to saying that the ego grows by meeting and overcoming obstacles. It tests its powers and learns to overcome obstacles by contriving solutions to painful but not overwhelming setbacks. If action is too facile or easy, too fluid, the organism fails to develop several important attributes. It does not learn the capacity to delay action, right? It becomes deficient in a self-reflective registering of experience, doesn't know what it's capable of, right? Doesn't know how to relate really to the challenges of the environment. It loses in some a sagacious or a mindful self-consciousness. Becker states, for the human animal, this loss is critical since his primary trait is a consciousness of I and a self-reflective placing of himself in the world. In other words, the human being's got to recognize how he or she stacks up, and the only way to really know who you are is to develop your identity by facing obstacles and challenges in the world, and then by discipline and by effort and by courage, you overcome those challenges. That's how you grow and that's how you develop, right? And he concludes, he says, circumspect delay and weighing of action is the foundation of conscience. It's all about this tension of doing versus undergoing, right? If all that you accomplish is to be undergone, right? Washed over by mediated technologies, right? So they could be stuff like Facebook or binge watching Hulu or something like that, right? You're not really accomplishing anything. You're not really developing or challenging yourself in overcoming these obstacles that he's talking about, right? But on the other hand, the challenges can't be so severe that they crush us, right? There's got to be this balance between doing and undergoing, right? Between pleasure and pain. Okay, so all of the test questions are colored in the respective slides.